الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي زدني علما قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين صدق الله العظيم. The ayah of the Quran that I have recited to you are the beginning or the opening ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the surah with the letters Alif, Lam, Mim. The letters are pronounced individually. You do not form them and pronounce them in the form of a word. These letters are called huruf muqatta'at, means these are scattered letters and must be pronounced individually. This is one of the miracles of the linguistics of the Quran that the Arabs of the time were familiar with. That is why if you look at the books of the history of the old Arabian era, you will find that nobody objected to this in the Quran. And you will find this in many places in the Quran. Alif Lam Mim, Alif Lam Ra, Qaf, Noon, Saad, Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Saad. Nobody objected to it. If you go back and look at the poems written by the old Arabic poets, so I'm talking about maybe 500 years before Islam, they have the preserved history of Arabs, in which you will find poems in which you will find the use of similar letters that are pronounced individually, yet are not pronounced as a word. So Arabs knew the usage of these letters like that. However, when a person uses them, there is a meaning behind. And these letters in the Quran, even though you get a reward for reciting them, for every letter you get 10 hasanat, nobody knows the meaning of them. Mufassirin, the people who write the tafsir, the description of the verses of the Quran, they've tried explaining them, but those are their thoughts. There is no concrete evidence going all the way to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam explaining what these letters mean. And this is a secret between the Prophet and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has not been told to us. This is another thing that mesmerizes the humans, that despite the fact people have done PhDs in linguistics and have been learning Arabic language for over a very long time, but the real true meaning of these letters, no Arab can describe. What entirely is the true meaning of these letters? Why are they being used? What is the purpose? Yet nobody can deny that this usage is against the rules of Arabic language. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens it up in a way that if you Arabs really truly think that you have mastered the art of literacy, communication, then go ahead and decode this. And I'm not telling you what is the meaning of it. And similarly, if you go forward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right away says, this book comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, this book. This book is the guidance for those who want to get the guidance, who are the righteous. And this book has no doubt in it. So this book is the guidance for those who want to attain righteousness, those who want to attain piety. Now if you look at the religion itself, you will find that in religion, you have concepts of belief. So there's a belief system, there is an action system, and there is an intention system. Those are the only three tenets on which the belief stands, or the faith stands. That you have to believe in something, then you have to do the actions, and your actions and belief must be governed by the purity of intention, called ikhlas. There is no way out. That is why when Imam Bukhari started writing the book of hadith, Al-Bukhari, the very first thing, the very first hadith that he brings is what? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. All the actions are driven by the intentions. All the actions are driven by the intentions. Now this is where Some people will say, okay, I understand. If you have a good intention for a good action, it is rewarded. If you have a bad intention for a good action, it is not rewarded. For example, if you're doing things for fame, if you're doing things for other reasons, but to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you're not getting any reward. Rather, you're sinning. But is it possible that I can do bad actions with good intention? Because it only talks about good intention? The answer is no. In Islam, there is no concept of Robin Hood. You cannot be stealing from people to serve those that are underprivileged. You can't do that. You cannot do wrong for the sake of right. Everything has to be right. And this is a very simple rule of mathematics. When you multiply a minus with a plus, you don't get a plus, you get a minus. Negative numbers times positive numbers give you a negative number. So therefore, this is automatically kicked out if anybody thinks that you can do bad things with good intentions. So Islam very clearly talks about ethics, morality, laws, right from wrong. So Islam is very clear about it. In Quran, if you open Surah Al-Baqarah, there are two ayahs back to back, 264 and 265. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to believers. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, those of you who have believed. La tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal adha. Do not invalidate your charities with reminders of it or injury. That means when you're doing good deeds, your purity of intention is needed. You should not be doing it for any other purpose but to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you do that, كَالَّذِي يُنْفِقُ مَالَهُ رِيَاءَ النَّاسِ. So if you do something like this, it is pretty much like a person who is giving charity but just to show off. وَلَا يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. And such a person doesn't believe in Allah nor the Day of Judgment. That's why he's showing off, or she's showing off. Because if they believe in Allah and the Day of Judgment, they will do it for Allah because they know one day they will get the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're doing it for any other purpose, that means they don't believe that there will be a Day of Judgment in which they will get the reward. فَمَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ صَفْوَانٍ عَلَيْهِ تُرَابٌ. It is as if you're talking about a very smooth rock on which there may be a little bit of a dust. فَأَصَابَهُ وَابِلٌ. And rain pours on it. فَتَرَكَهُ صَلْدًا. So what does the rain do to a rock which is smooth and covered with dust? It just simply wipes it off. That's all it does. Nothing benefits. That rock doesn't get benefited by the tremendous amount of rain that poured on it, other than it got clean. لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا. These are the people, they're unable to keep anything of what they have done. Their rewards are gone or washed away because they never did for Allah. وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not guide the disbelieving people. And what should your actions be like? وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرَضَاتِ اللَّهِ. And those people who do charity and good deeds for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for getting the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ. It is like a garden on which if the rain pours down, فَآتَتْ أُكُلَهَا ضِعْفَيْنِ. It will give you twice the fruits. فَإِن لَّمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ فَطَلْ. Even if it doesn't get rained by a tremendous amount of water, only a drizzle is enough to give fruit. Because the land is fertile. That's how the believers are who do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And Allah is all seeing of whatever we do. This is the bottom line, the core. The moment we realize that whatever I'm doing, Allah is watchful. He's seeing. Because He is all seeing. He's all hearing. Do you think a person will commit a crime or a sin? Even at the level of intention? No way. It's when we are forgetful is when we commit a sin. Nobody is in reminding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and commits a sin. Nobody does that. So it is the forgetfulness that we have to pay attention to, even at the level of intention, not just the actions, because it all springs from the intention. Good intention, good reward. Bad intention, bad reward. Good intention, bad deed, bad reward. So both sides have to be good. Good intention, good deed, and then you get the reward. So the bottom line is, it doesn't matter how big or small of a task that you and I do. It has to be in the purity of intention. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Everybody is doomed, but who is not doomed? Those who have believed and have done good deeds. And both of these things have to be driven by the purity of intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. That's why purity of intention is extremely important. That's why Imam Bukhari, as I told you earlier, when he started writing Bukhari, he started it with this hadith that shows how important the purity of intention is, and then he talks about the other chapters like Iman and Badal Khalq and Wahi and Salah and Zakah and Hajj. All of those follow. But if the intention is not pure, it doesn't matter what the action is, it doesn't come out good. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.